Now we are up to the interview part of the podcast. I'm here with Myles Burkett, quarterback for the Great Danes. First question I have is what QB has inspired your game growing up?
Definitely Aaron Rodgers. I mean, you grow up in Wisconsin, you're spoiled with quarterback play at the NFL level. Even down to like the one wristband I wear, it's Rodgers, like the influence. So, like I said earlier in the show, like he's the greatest like thrower of the football to ever walk the earth. So, I took a lot from him, and even like down to like the way I released the football and some of the sidearm stuff. So definitely Aaron Rodgers.
Will you ever copy one of his cadences? He's very famous for some of those.
See, modern day college football is the clap. So, we got out of the hard count stuff. In my freshman year at Wisconsin, I kind of mastered the hard count, get guys jump off sides, free plays are fun. So, but now the clap, it's just hopefully some defender is not locked in and he jumps a clap, which never happens.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah. I'm kind of upset they switched to that, but that's besides the point. Now, the next question I have for you is, what's an aspect of your game that you believe you thrive in?
I think my deep ball. I think that I put my deep ball accuracy and execution up there with anybody in the country. We're talking FBS as well, Power 5 guys. So, I think this year I've shown the ability to throw the ball down the field at a high clip, and I got some receivers who can make some plays for me. So, definitely my deep ball.
Now, we've seen what you thrive in. What do you think is something you have to work on the most?
Honestly, it's probably just the experience part, but that's something you really can't teach or coach. Like, it's kind of just comes with the reps, right? Like,
that makes sense.
I'm on going into my fourth start in college. Like, I played a little bit at Wisconsin, but not enough to plant my flag or anything like that. So, I think it all comes with getting comfortable, getting confident. I think I showed against West Virginia what I'm like when I'm confident, right? Just executing, right? But being able to be confident and trust what's happening and trust what I'm seeing each and every play throughout the game is probably something I can get a lot better at.
Now, with being the backup for Tanner Mordecai, what have you learned from him?
Yeah, I mean, I was blessed to, I was Graham Mertz's backup as a freshman, and I was a backup to Tanner Mordecai as a sophomore. Two guys, one who got his chance in the NFL and another guy who's a starter at SEC school. You really just see how guys prepare. I think that preparation is such a overlooked aspect of playing the position and then playing sports in general. Like, you're blessed with the ability to play at this level, right? You play Division I sports, God gave you the ability to be able to physically play the sport. But when it comes to the preparation, knowing what you have to do, knowing your job, knowing what, your coach is asking of you in every situation, that's something that goes extremely overlooked. So I think the way they prepared, especially Graham Moore, he was just so dedicated, right? And I've taken a lot from him. I take a lot from Tanner in terms of, how he prepared and how he practiced. I think more of how he practiced is what I take from him. But those are two valuable aspects of playing the position.
Yeah, every time I hear players talk about the studs they've had that they had to learn behind, it's always about how you prepare, how you practice, because usually that's where you see the difference between stars and people who haven't, shown what they had yet. Because when you have experience, usually you have how to prepare, how to practice. So usually that's their biggest element.
Hold on, I didn't even cut you off. Have you found your preparation routine and method and all that, or is that something you're still developing? Because you said you're going into your fourth start, so you're still building every game and getting better and practicing. But
yeah, I think if you ask anybody who's around me a lot, I'm a very routine oriented person. Even down to I do the same thing every day for practice. I go in the training room, I do ankle mobility. I go and I work out before every practice, right? So it's down to stuff like that where I get so routine oriented where maybe something that going back to your question that I have to work on is how do I handle adjusting, right? I'm used to when we play a home game, I'm at a hotel, right? And I come here and we don't have that luxury, right? So how do I adjust to not being in the hotel before I get to the game versus, being on campus and figuring out a way, I got to drive to campus day of the game and then figure out what do I do from, the time I get to campus and then the time I take the field, right? So that's stuff, like you say, I'm still kind of figuring out on the fly. But that's the easy part, right? The hardest part is playing the game. So if the biggest of the worries I have right now is everything that's leading up to the game, then, I'll be all right.
A big problem when you came here in Albany is we lost a lot of players And, there's not many returning players, but we do have Lindsay in the quarterback room who's been here. Now, have you learned anything from him?
Yeah, I mean, he's an experienced guy. I think he's on his 6th year now. Just like me, he was blessed to be around, some great quarterbacks, Bo Nix. Like, just hearing the stories of stuff like him, you can almost get stuff from Trey secondhand, right?
Yeah.
So those are valuable experience, because the thing that you figure out, and you can probably attest to it, like when you play sports, especially at the Division I level, you interact with so many people that you're bound to like run into a pro or an elite level player in your sport that, like, I know it's crazy. Like Jordan Love, Malik Willis, like they follow me on Instagram. Like if you'd have told me that when I was 12 years old that the starting quarterback for the Green Bay Packers follows me on Instagram, I'd be like, you're crazy, right? And it's like stuff like that where it's like these valuable interactions where you can learn so much from these people that have achieved so much in your space. That's the cool part. So I think from Trey, he teaches me a lot from, like, I call him the elder statesman or Southern comfort. He's a Bama guy. So I learned a lot from him in terms of like the overall landscape of the game, how to prepare, right? You talk about preparation, practice habits, and then also like some of the secondhand stuff.
Yeah, it's remarkable. Every time we have a guest on here, it seems like sports is such a small world. We hear Paul and Kara Page Beckers. It seems like at some point or another, you're going to find some star, encounter. It's just pretty cool. And now, quick shout out, we have the Great Danes representing in Green Bay with Julian Hicks. Shout out Julian Hicks, receiver last year, is playing for your Packers. So quick shout out to him. Now, the next thing I have for you is you were heavily, heavily recruited by the MAC conference. What made you choose Big Ten over the MAC?
Yeah, I mean, so my recruitment actually is funny because, you look online. My recruitment was a lot of MAC-centered my sophomore year of high school. And then when I got into my junior year is when I started to get, a lot of Power 4 interest. Like, you name a school, I probably had heard from them. So I got an offer from Wisconsin, didn't post it, committed on the spot, didn't even do anything. That was my dream school.
So you weren't even considering.
So I wasn't even considering anybody else. I knew I was going there. If you ask the people closest to me, they knew I was going to Wisconsin. So I had some people try to flip me late, like Vandy and some other schools like that. Like they were trying to get me to commit late, but I always knew I was going there. So that's a majority of my offers were from the MAC. But then as soon as I got the Big Ten offer, I committed right away. So there really wasn't even a recruitment after that.
Was it tough when Miami's Van Dyke ended up transferring to Wisco?
Yeah, so honestly, he transferred after I was already gone.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so as soon as I left, it's funny because, you talk about the 3-team trade.
Yeah.
That's the thing rumbling around the internet. It's kind of funny. But, he just got hurt. So, prayers to him. Obviously, you hate to see a guy go down, especially, at a school I played at. I still got a lot of love for them and, the things they're trying to do. So, one of my boys, Braden Locke, though, he's stepping up. He's going to be the starter throughout, the rest of the season. And that's one of my close friends. And, I shot him a text the other day and told him, lock in. No pun intended. But he's gonna do great.
It's so weird because the media makes their own narratives in these situations. And whenever I hear the player actually, it's never right. Either it's the offers they receive. There's always more than they even post. Yeah, it's kind of. But that's all I have to go off of, So I have to really make my best judgment. But it's nice hearing, from the primary source here. Now, my question is, what made you choose Albany?
Yeah, it's funny how these things work, right? You get in the portal with certain expectations or certain, predictions of what's going to happen. I would have told you I probably would have went to an FBS school somewhere around the state of Wisconsin just because I'm a homebody. Like, I've never lived outside the state of Wisconsin, never been outside the state of Wisconsin for more than 3 weeks.
Right.
Like, so when I got in the portal, I was kind of just, mulling around the teams that were around the area. You look at like Northern Illinois, some of the teams in Illinois, Ohio, some of those teams like that. But then when I got the call, I was like, it's an interesting situation, like it's a team that went to the FCS semifinal. Like that's nothing to, joke about, right? A team that their quarterback, stepped away from the team, was able to find success in his own right. And then, you look at historically having a pretty good defense, right? So, and a very good coordinator, very good head coach, very good offensive coordinator. So when the OC had called me, I was like, oh, wow. Like, I talked to my parents, like, this is an interesting situation. This actually might be, you know, this might be a good spot for me. Let's go check it out. You know, I came on a visit. You know, I talked to him, you know, my OC for 20, 25 minutes, got around him, and I'm like, yeah, I'm coming here. Like I'm in the hotel room in Albany.
Yeah.
Calling other coaches, setting up official visits. Went to go meet with them. Told them I'm coming here. Got back to the hotel, called them. Sorry, I'm not coming anymore.
So that visit's really what made it obvious that this was going to be. Now, it's very impressive because when at least they announced that you were coming here, we lost all our receivers at that point. Royal Alexander transferred.
Yeah.
We didn't get Carter and all of them yet. So it was pretty interesting to see. You know, it must be scary initially. Obviously, you know, we're hoping we got great receivers now, but back then it's like, who are we really going to get? We were pretty thin at that position. So you really put confidence in the offensive coordinator and coach, and they serve you justice. So you're 3 games into your season. What have you learned from that experience?
Yeah, I mean, you learn, you know, how to take live bullets, right? Like, you know, you get that tough adjective thrown at you when you get up. You know, I take a lot of hits. You get up. That's something I take a lot of pride in. You know, you're the face for your teammates in terms of whatever type of wavelength you're on, your teammates usually follow as a starting quarterback, right? Like if you're down, you know, usually your teammates follow, or you're up like if you're too high, you know, your teammates follow. So my whole thing is learning how to be a consistent, you know, in terms of mindset and poise and stuff like that, because it's easy, especially at the quarterback position. Like you make a big throw, it's easy to get up and celebrate. Like, you know, I saw on ESPN, like my cellies are on there. I'm just shooting. You know what I'm saying? So I have my fair share of that, but then also being able to have the poise to come back to the sideline and then keep everyone composed, right? So especially like I'm by no stretch a veteran, right? Like I'm in my 3rd year, so I'd like to assume that I have some, you know, as the people call unk status.
Yeah.
Right? But
experience.
I have I'm not a veteran, so to be able to step into a leadership position as someone at my age, like I'm only 20 years old, like there's guys on the team 23, 24, being able to be that consistent, composed and poised, just figure on the team to where guys can always know, like I'm ready to go every single drive, I'm ready to go every play, no matter, you know, if it's a touchdown or, you know, I throw an interception.
Would you say that's like one of the hardest things? Because I could speak on that as a basketball player, you know, probably one of the hardest things just in college sports in general is just being consistent, because it's like, you know, the season's a roller coaster. You know, you got good days, bad days, good games, bad games, but trying to be the same person every day is probably, you know, in my opinion, probably the hardest thing. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And I think that the hardest thing about playing college sports nowadays is everything outside of the actual game, right? Like outside of the actual sport. You know, like we're put in such a spotlight nowadays, you know, and honestly, it's not even by choice. Like you claim the life that comes with being a Division I athlete, you know, on accident, right? Like you work so hard to get here, and you know you get, you know, your school's paid for it, right? You have opportunities to play on national television, opportunities to play the sport you love past high school, but then you also embrace, like, I got to go do media every week. You know what I'm saying? I got to talk to the media after a game, win or loss, right? I got to have people ask me why this went this way, right? And in my mind, I'm frustrated about it too. And I got to talk to people about why that went wrong and how I messed up, right? So people don't give us enough credit, per se, to how much you actually deal with. Not to mention, all the students here, I got the same amount of homework as you. Like I got the homework. It's not like I got someone doing my homework for me. No, I'm doing my homework. So the life of a college athlete is not always that shiny, but you know, it's the life we chose. So you got to love it.
Yeah, I think it's also a big institutional thing when it comes to schoolwork. I can speak on it with my former relationship with Clemson. He never really started there, but he was backup quarterback, Zarek Cooper. He came into Clemson as their guy. Unfortunately, he became a partier, didn't really care about keeping his body right, lost the job very quickly. But yeah, I remember each day he'd hit me up and say, yo, do my homework. He's like $100 each assignment.
Allegedly.
Well, Zarek, I apologize if I got in trouble, but I mean, back then NIL wasn't a thing, but I appreciate, but the point is, what I'm saying here is some schools like Clemson allegedly are a little lenient, or like what DeMar said, Boston College is very tough.
Yeah.
You know, some schools are just tougher than others, and you really have to focus on that. Now, the last thing I have to ask you is, Your last year in high school was phenomenal. Undefeated, won the state champ, broke records. Was it hard after that losing here when you played West Virginia?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's journey, like, I think that everyone can get caught up in, like, high school sports and college sports are completely different, like, differently removed, like, forums, right? So, like, there's a lot of people who come, first of all, usually if you get to this level, you were a dog in high school, right?
Course, yeah.
Like, everyone,
One
like,
of the best
how
from
many,
your area.
how many guys are like, oh, yeah, I went undefeated, won a state championship, like, on your team, right? Not just, like, at this level, but on your team. So, I was blessed to have a ton of success in high school. But then you get to college and it's like it just restarts, right? Like you're a freshman again.
Yeah.
And you're an inexperienced guy. You're a guy who has no idea what he's doing again, right? Just like you're a freshman in high school. But when it comes to coming here and I'm 1-2 as a starter right now, but the thing that you can get caught up in is like I think we had a conversation today, as a team and talking about you're 1-2 right now, but everything's still in front of us, right? Like there's this. If the football season was supposed to be done after 3 games, it'd be 3 games, right? So you get 12 opportunities guaranteed. So we have 9 more opportunities to go out and win a bunch of football games. And if you go out, you win 9 games in a row, you're 10-2. You got everything in front of you, right? Like
team.
the thing I keep coming back to, and ironically it's an Aaron Rodgers thing, is run the table, right? Like if you can run the table and you can control your own destiny and be in the driver's seat of what you want to achieve, then you have everything in front of you. You're talking conference championships, national championships, like that's all still in front of us. So when you lose the mindset of falling victim to where you are and not where you can be, that's where complacency comes. That's where pointing fingers comes, and that's where you start to lose the trust within your locker room and the trust with the coaches. But if you just look forward and not backwards, then good things usually come.
Yeah, I think something you have to point out here is when you have a committee like in college, it's not like the NFL. It's not losses, it's how they lost and who they lost to. And losing to FBS, with West Virginia, and then losing to Idaho, who's arguably the greatest FCS team right now. We don't know. I mean, obviously South Dakota and North Dakota State have always been those top dogs. That's not gonna hurt you. If you lost to like bottom FCS teams, and that would really change things. Like if you lost to Monmouth, for example, who struggled a lot last season, then that would be a bad loss. But because these were 2 great losses, I don't think this puts you at a disadvantage at all. And I think, it's pretty much a clean slate at this point. As long as you guys win, you'll make the playoffs, and hopefully South Dakota State doesn't run it back. But people really, like you said, sleep on the FCS. Like it's tough to get here. Yeah. And
there's a lot of talent as well.
And I hate to say it, but we saw how close the Colorado game was to North Dakota State. And I think South Dakota State's way better than North Dakota State.
Right.
And and you see a lot of NFL talent. Carson Wentz went to North Dakota State famously. And South Dakota State, I remember when they spoke on it, had multiple players drafted. We had multiple players get signed. There's so much talent here that people, I don't think, recognize how much there really is. And it's a great football, great show. And, I'm excited to see what happens.
Right. I mean, you look at us against West Virginia, like, we held our own against a Power 4 team, and it's a Big 12 team. They won 9 games last year, right? So there's a lot of talent at this level. That's something that even me coming to FCS out of a Power 5 team, a lot of people are like, oh, FCS. Like, no, yeah, FCS. Like, this is legit football. We're in the CAA. Like, this is a legit conference. You got legit players. Guys play the NFL at this conference. Guys make a lot of money at this conference. So definitely don't sleep on FCS football.
Now, one thing I will say, the problem in New York is they care less sometimes about the division. They care more about winning the chip. Because right now, Cortland, when they won the D3 championship, is actually really a top dog right now in New York because of that season they had. So, unfortunately, obviously, FCS is way tougher. But because of that championship win, now we got to match them. Because FCS championship is way bigger than D3.
100%.
But, I got so upset when I saw Cortland get ranked higher than us in athletics. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. They're not C1, but it's awful.
Basketball did them dirty, so...
Yeah, we gotta get back on that. Well, thank you for coming on. I hope you enjoyed.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Just Talks. We'll see you next time.